So we are looking at software engineering descriptive type questions and answers. Explain the cost drivers and EAF adjustment factor of the intermediate COCOMO model. So there are 15 attributes which we call as the cost drivers that determine the multiplying factors. So these factors they depend on the product, the computer, the personal and the technology attributes, also known as the project attributes. And of these attributes, they are required like software reliability, the product complexity, the analyst capability, the application experience, and the use of modern tools and the required development schedule also. So this each cross driver has certain rating scale, and for each rating there is a multiplying factor which is provided. For instance, for the product attributes rely, that is the reliability, the rating sector is the rating scale is very low, nominal, high, and very high. And the multiplying factor for these rating is 0.75, 0.88, nominal, high, and very high, respectively. So if the reliability requirement for the project is judged to be low, then we'll use 0.75. If it is judged to be very high, the factor would be 1.50. So these are the cost drivers and the adjustment factors we are going to use. The attribute and their multiplying factors of different ratings, they are shown here. As I said that these are the cost drivers and these are the ratings from very low to extra high. So we can divide them into the product attributes, the hardware attributes, the personal attributes, the project attributes. So these attributes, let me revisit it again. This is the cost drivers for product attributes. Just take an example. We have just talked about the reliability. Very low would be 0.75, very high would be 1.50. Let us take one more example like the personal attribute. What is the experience of applications for the personnel who are actually working on it? So very low will be this, very high will be 0.82. And likewise, so these values are empirically already available, and depending upon what subjectively only, but still when you judge that particular software which you are going to make is having say very high, it requires very high application experience, 8.82 would be taken. Compare now the difference, that is the productivity and difficulty. We'll take all these, let us take one by one. The productivity and difficulty. So productivity and difficulty, productivity it refers to the matrix and measures of the output from the production processes, that is per unit of input. So the productivity P, it may be understood or conceived as a matrix of the technical and engineering proficiency of production. So in software project planning, productivity is defined as the number of lines of code developed per person month, while the difficulty, the ratio, that is K divided by TD square, where K is the software development cost and TD is the peak development time, is called the difficulty, and which is denoted by capital D, which is measured in person per year. Productivity, it measures the output for production of processes per unit of input, and difficulty, the ratio, which is a ratio of the software development cost to the peak development time. This is given by D, and the relationship shows that a project is more difficult to develop when the manpower demand is quite high and when the time schedule is short. Putnam has observed the productivity which is proportional to the difficulty. So productivity which is proportional to the difficulty. This is the relation with certain constant beta. And the second is manpower versus development time. So manpower, they refer to the labor manpower, either an abstract term for human labor effort as opposed to the machines and animals, etc., or the number of human productive units which is available or which is needed for professional or some other task. Also used when referring to such a person as a resource. So it's better to call them as resource. For example, we can call it as a manpower shortage. And the development time is the time required to develop a project. So Norton-Rayleigh equation, they represent manpower measured in person per unit time as a function of time. So it is usually expressed in a person year by year, that is P by I by R. Now, static single variable model and static multivariate model. What do you mean when we say static single variable model and static multivariable model? So, single or static single variable model, the methods using this model use an equation to estimate the desired value such as cost, time, effort, and they all depend on same variable used as predictor. For example, say size of number of lines in terms of size is kiloline of code. And the example of this would be the common equation C is equal to A L to the power B, where C is the cost, which is the effort expressed in the unit of manpower, for example, person month. L is the size generally given in the line of code, kiloline of code. And the constant A and B, they are derived from the historical data of the organization and various other organizations with past experiences. Since this A and B, they depend on the development environment, local development environment. These models are not transportable to different organizations. So let me rephrase my sentence that when we are talking about single static single variable model, so for a particular organization, what is the past experience? If A and B are taken constant for that particular organization, it cannot be transportable. That is why we call it as a single variable model, which is static. While the static multivariate model, they depend on several variables representing various aspects of the software development environment. For instance, the methods which are used, the user participation, the customer-oriented changes, the memory constraints. So this model provides a relationship between the delivered line of source code, that is L in thousands of lines, and this L is nothing but the KDSI, kilo delivered source instruction, and the effort is in person month. And this is given by, say, E is equal to 5.2 L to the power 0.91. In the same fashion, for the duration of the development, it is given by D is equal to 4.1 L to the power 0.36. What about the intermediate and detailed COCOMO model? What do we mean? Because we know COCOMO model, but we have intermediate and detailed COCOMO model also. Intermediate COCOMO, this one, it computes software development effort as function of program size and set of cost drivers that include subjective assessment of product, hardware, personnel, and project attributes. So this extension considered as a set of 4 cost drivers, each with a number of subsidiary attributes, as we have just seen in the previous question, like the product attribute, required reliability, the size of the database, complexity of the product, or the hardware attributes like runtime, performance requirement, memory constraints, the volatility of the virtual machine environment, the required turnabout time or turnaround time. The personal attributes like analyst capability, software engineering capability, the experience of the personnel, the virtual machine experience, the programming language experience. While the project attributes include the use of software tools, the application of software engineering methods, and the required development schedule. So each of these 15 attributes receive a rating on a 6-point scale from very low to extra high in importance or value. So an effort multiplier for the table which we saw, the product of all effort multipliers resulting in a EAF, effort adjustment factor. This is what we have seen just now in previous question also. Okay. So on basis of this, the intermediate COCOMO formula would be something like this: AI KLOC to the power B, and then EAF. E is the effort applied in person month. KLOC is kiloline of code, estimated number of thousands of delivered line of code for the project, and EAF is of course the factor which is calculated above. So this coefficient AI and BI are given for some software project, like they can be divided into organic, semi-detached, and embedded. So this AI, BI are these constants which we are going to use. So the development time D calculations uses the E, which we have just computed, effort in person month. So development time will be on the basis of E, in the same way as in basic COCOMO. What about the detailed COCOMO? In detailed COCOMO, it incorporates all the characteristics of the intermediate version with the assessment of cost driver impact on each step. For example, analysis, design. So impact on each step is also taken care of the software engineering process. So this is just the variation that it at each stage the impact is to be assessed. List the points of a simplified design process. A design process, it may include several steps which are followed by the designers. So depending on the product or service, some of these stages may be irrelevant, or they may be ignored in a real world situation, just in order to save some time, reduce cost, or because they may be redundant in certain situations. And typical stages of this simplified design process, like pre-production design. So design brief, and earlier, often the beginning statement of the design goal would be design brief. The analysis would be analysis of current design goals. Research means investigating similar design solution in the field or related topics. Specification means specifying the requirements of the design solution for a product or a service. Problem solving, that is conceptualization and documenting design solution, and then presentation, that is presenting the design solution. Then the design during production, about the development and testing. The post-production design feedback for future decision like implementation and evaluation and conclusion. Then redesigning means of all the stages in the design process, they are repeated at any time before, during, and after production. Explain the following with example. Common coupling, communicational cohesion, class diagram, and structure chart. What is common coupling? Common coupling is when two modules, they share same global data or global variables. So we call them two modules or two or more modules. They are sharing, if this is a module, this is a module, they are sharing the same global variables. So changing the shared resource implies changing all the modules which are using it. And diagnosing problem in structures with considerable common coupling is quite difficult and time consuming also. So this does not mean that the use of global data is always bad. It does not mean that a software designer must be aware of potential consequence or result of common coupling and take care to guard against them. Communicational cohesion. Cohesion is the interdependence or the functional strength of the elements of the module. So communicational cohesion is when parts of the module, they are grouped because they operate on the same data. For example, a module which operates on the same record of information. So in this, all the elements of the component, they operate on the same input data and they produce the same output data. So we can say if a module performs a series of actions related to a sequence of steps to be followed by the product, and all actions to be performed on the same data. This is communicational cohesion. Class diagram. So class diagram, as we are aware, the UML we use. UML has 9 basic diagrams to represent your software design. So the class diagram is the UML Unified Modeling Language, which is a type of static structure diagram that describes the structure of the system by showing the system's classes. Of course, the class will contain the attributes and the relationship between the classes. And the UML specifies two types of scope of members, instance and classifier. So in the case of instance member, the scope is a specific instance, and for attributes, it means that it can vary between the instances. And for methods, the second part, it means that the invocation affects the instance state. In other words, it is going to affect the instance attributes. And in the classifier member, the scope is in the class, and for attribute, it means that its value is equal to all the instance. And for methods, it means that the invocation do not affect the instance state. So classifier members are commonly recognized as the static in many programming languages. What about the structure chart? Structure chart is a top-down modular design tool. So again, it is a modular design tool constructed of squares representing the different modules in the system and the lines connecting them. The line represent the connection and or the ownership between the activities and sub-activities as they are used in organization charts. Structure chart is for software design, and it inherently uses the DFD, which is the part of software analysis. So DFD and structure chart, they together does the software analysis and design work for the structural programming. That is why it is called as a structure chart. So in structure analysis, structure chart are used to specify the high-level design architecture of a computer program. And since we are expressing it as a design tool, they help the programmer in dividing and conquering a large software problem. That is, recursively breaking a problem into parts that are small enough to be understood by the human brain or manageable by us. The structure chart also depicts the size and the complexity of the system. the number of readily identifiable function and modules within each function, and whether each identifiable function is a manageable entity or should be broken down into further smaller components. Explain the equivalence class partitioning and boundary value analysis and compare the two. So when we are talking about black box testing or black box test design. So the test case design is for the black box is done by equivalence class partitioning and boundary value analysis criteria. Equivalence partitioning means, as I said, it is a technique in black box testing, and this is done why? Because the number of inputs can be infinite. It can be many, not infinite, but there will be many. So what we do, the number of test cases, we minimize the number of test cases in such a way that the system is expected to act the same way for all tests for each equivalence partition. That means we make equivalence classes like this. Okay, and every possible the test inputs are selected from each class like this. We'll select one from here, say one from here, and every possible input belong to one and only one equivalence class. In other words, it is the method that can help you to derive the test cases. So you identify classes of input and output condition, and the rule is that each member in the class calls the same, either I take this one or this one. So the rule is that each member of the class causes the same kind of behavior of the system. So we can take only one. The equivalence class partitioning method creates a set of inputs and outputs that are handled in the same way by the application. So we don't need all these, just take one of these, take one of these. So if you're testing for an input numbers or input box expecting a number from say 1 to 1000, then there is no use in writing 1000 test cases for all 1000 valid inputs plus other test cases for invalid data. Just take one of them and one for invalid. So using equivalence partitioning method, the test cases can be divided into 3 sets of input called as classes, and each test case is representative of a test class, means the valid and the invalid. Then one more thing is important. Once we have done the equivalence class partitioning, then we come to the boundary value analysis. So it's widely recognized that input values at the extreme points, now we have acquired this class, equivalence class, and we know that the most common or the errors, the extreme end, the input values at the extreme end of the input domain, they cause the maximum errors. So more application errors occur at the boundaries of input domain. So boundary value analysis testing technique or test case design technique is used to identify errors at the boundaries rather than finding those exist in the center of the input domain, though you can take the center value also. But the boundary value analysis is the next part. It is the next part. Please understand, it is not independent. It is the next part of the equivalence partitioning for designing test cases, where test cases are selected at the edge of the equivalence class. So we have chosen or we have found or made the equivalence classes. Then we take the boundary values. For example, if you have divided 1 to 1000 input values in valid data equivalence class, then you can select test cases like 1, say 950, and some in between 1100, and then 1005, and then say -5 like this. Just boundary one value beforehand of 1 and one value after this, and one value just before 1000 and after 1000. Explain the following terms with reference to the software reliability model: the predictive validity, the resource usage, and the applicability. Software reliability is very important as far as your software are concerned. So predictive validity, it is the capability of a model to predict future failure behavior from present and past failure behavior. If you are able to predict the validity, that means you have some idea on the basis of present and past failure, you can predict future failure. So this capability is significant only when the failure behavior is changing. So there are two general ways of viewing this predictive validity, which is based on two current approaches to characterizing the failure random process. First is the name of failure approach, and the other is the failure time approach, the number of failure approach, and the failure time approach. So we can visually check the predictive validity by just plotting the relative error against the normalized time. What about the resource usage? It is linearly proportional to execution time and mean failure experienced, mu. So this XR, which is the usage of resource R, XR. The XR is given by theta R, tau, time, mu R, where theta R is the resource usage per CPU hour. Tau, as we said, that is the time. This theta R is the is non-zero for failure identification percent and theta I, and computer time theta c, and the quantity mu r here is the resource usage per failure. So it is non-zero for failure identification percent mu I and failure correction percent mu f and the computer or computing time mu c. Applicability, another important characteristics of a model, and this model should be judged by its degree of applicability across software products that vary in size, structure and function. So the model should be usable in different development environments, different operational environments and different life cycle phases. So it is desirable that the model should be robust with respect to derivations from its assumptions, errors of the data and the parameters it applies, and certain unusual conditions. So these are a few more questions on our software engineering and descriptive series. We'll be taking more. Thank you so much.